Hey everybody, Angel Arts here, and welcome to my first interview with candidate number one for my Mass Effect RPG tabletop campaign. If you haven't already, please take a look at the rules and regulations video that I should have provided for you prior to this that tells you what you need to do in order to provide acceptable feedback to this video. I will not be responsible for any of your comments that get deleted because you don't follow the directions and the guidelines, so make sure you check that out. To begin with, we are going to go ahead and start with SuperSpells. Thank you again, SuperSpells, for hanging out with me at such short notice.
Oh, it's fine.
Spells, can you just explain to me in your own words, what is it about the Mass Effect universe that interests you? What is it about the universe that interests you?
I like the different takes on aliens and how the faster than light travel works. Like specifically, and how the combat is different in that they're not shooting like lasers. They just have the block in the gun that shaves off the bits of metal.
Okay.
It's a really interesting universe, especially the Citadel and how everything is worked out. It's just all the technical lore stuff I'm interested in.
Then my follow-up question is, what is it about tabletop gaming or role-playing that interests you?
I like how it's actually more of what interests me in role play in general. I like how instead of you just crafting the story yourself, you have all these other variables because you have all these different people also crafting the story too. So you can't really try to predict what's coming next from your other fellow role players. It's how the story adapts and changes.
My next question is, why do you spells? Why do you believe that you would be a good fit for my DMing style?
Because you seem to be the type of person that really appreciates a lot of forward thought into characters,
Okay.
and I've always been one of those people that spends like 3 hours making about a 4-page backstory because I sometimes it's not as detailed, but whenever I get into the mood, I just don't stop writing.
Okay.
So I really like putting a lot of work into characters, and because of the introduction video that you gave for this campaign, it seems that that would fit in line with what you do and what I like to do.
What do you believe makes you a good person to game with the other players?
I've always said for a long time that I can get along with just about anybody as long as they're purposefully not being contradictory.
Easygoing, would you say?
Yeah, it's pretty much just easygoing. There's not a lot that gets underneath my skin. I'm a fairly laid back person. My characters tend to vary a lot, but as far as me as a player goes, I don't I can get along with just about anybody.
Okay. So those are actually all of the out of character questions that I have for you. We are now going to move on to the role playing aspect. You will enter. You are sitting in the room, and the person who is at the front desk, um, uh, her eyes grow wide because you figure she actually recognizes you. And why shouldn't she not recognize you? She almost drops the papers on the floor as she is walking back to her desk from the copy machine, and she picks up the papers, straightens herself out, and she says, my apologies. I just didn't expect to see you here, Miss."
Rain.
Miss Rayne, yes, of course. You had the 7 o'clock appointment. Please, I believe Mr. Musey will see you now. I don't suppose my daughter's a very big fan. Do you think maybe? And she starts holding out a sheet of paper, which seems to have like a list of. It looks like her list of groceries that she was supposed to do that morning, and she's sort of like handing it to you, with only half of the things crossed off.
Don't worry, I'm not going to bite your head off. And she's just going to sign the paper. You can go ahead and tell your daughter it's from me personally.
Thank you so much, Miss Rayne. It's definitely an honor. You go walk past her. As you are walking down the hallway, there are several people who do a little bit of a double take as you make your way down the hallway. And then finally, you see a lovely office, relatively well decorated, comfortable seating. The smell of lavender is in the air, slight smell of lavender. And there is a gentleman there, dressed very, very well dressed gentleman, slicked back hair, and he's going through some papers, and when he looks up and sees you, he says, "Ah, yes, Miss Rayne! We've been expecting you. Such an honor." He walks over to you. He gives you a mwah, mwah kiss, like, on both cheeks. How do you react to that?
Gets a small smile on her face. She's fairly used to this from her executive. He tends to do the exact same thing. He's an earth colonist from France, so he does this stuff all the time.
Okay.
And she recognizes the smell of lavender. She tends to give him a headache with all the paper she brings in.
Gotcha.
So she just returns it.
Wonderful. Just so that the viewers are aware, can you give us a physical description of your character, including race?
My character is an Asari.
Mm-hmm.
She looks fairly regular for what you would consider from an Asari, though she does have some rather elegant face paint around her eyes, sort of like an eyeshadowy type thing.
Okay.
Her lips are a deeper blue than the rest of her face, and she, while you might have seen her on news clippings and radio shows around the galaxy, in person she's a bit more toned than you would have for a singer.
Okay. Liam Nathaniel Musey asks you to sit down, and then he says, "Miss Rayne, may I offer you a beverage, a drink? What exactly is your beverage of choice, my dear?"
You wouldn't happen to have any tea, would you?
Tea, of course. Yes. With or without cream?
No cream, thanks.
Honey, sugar?
Yes, sugar. 2 cubes, please.
He snaps his fingers. And one of his assistants in the other room dashes into the kitchen to acquire your beverage of choice. So, let's go straight to business then, shall we? I just have a list of questions, just all protocol, if you understand, that I wanted to go over with you. I suppose the first question's already been answered. What is your occupation? Clearly you are a very well-renowned performer and singer. I actually have a few of your albums. By the way, is it true that you have a single coming out soon?
Just between you and me.
Off the record.
Just between you and me, there are a few singles coming out soon.
Wonderful. Tell me, Miss Rayne, what exactly made you decide to pursue this career?
The singing career, or the one we're talking about here?
Your singing career. What made you decide to pursue that?
I wanted to see the galaxy, but I didn't want to become a dancer at a nightclub or become a scientist and go rusting around some dark ruins or go shoot whoever my commanding officer tells me to shoot. I wanted to do things a bit different than normal and preferably my way.
Your way? Care to explain?
Well, the Asari culture is a bit different than, or at least the home planet is a bit different than what you would expect, and there's typical societal norms where most people go. My way is a bit different, but it works for me.
I would like to think so. He says, your music videos on the tube are getting thousands of hits every day.
Well, thank you.
It's at this point that his assistant comes over and she presents with you a tray with a piping hot kettle of tea, which she pours for you. She asks you if you would like one lump or two.
2, please.
She drops them in. Tell me, Miss Rayne, what exactly are you trying to get out of your experience with the crew? What exactly is your reason for desiring to join this crew on this ship?
Well, I enjoy my career as everything. I enjoy my career as much as anyone would expect, but it gets somewhat tiresome going on tour all the time, and I figure this would be a nice experience to also travel as well, but rest a bit. You know, distance makes the heart grow fonder and all that.
So are you going to give up your tour entirely then?
I wouldn't say entirely. An unexpected comeback might be looked forward to by a lot of people.
All right, all right.
Bit of a surprise.
Are you concerned about any backlash from your fans on this decision?
My fans, at least the fans that I've gotten to know over the past few years, my fans I think would understand. At least the good majority of them would. They know how I've been very public about how I feel.
What do you believe that you personally can contribute to the crew itself?
Well, I did have a life before I became a singer, and yes, and I don't want to go too much into detail, but I have been trained in various skills. My family did want me to pursue a military career before I became a singer, so.
Ah, I see. What sort of training or skills would you say that you think would be relevant? That you think would be relevant for this opportunity?
Give me enough time and I can get information out of just about anybody, and it's not even messy. I mean, all I have to do is talk for long enough. I also know a thing or two about opening locks and such things.
All right.
So at least nothing electronic I can't get past.
All right. Well, since we're on that topic, let me provide you with a hypothetical question, if you will. Let's say you and your crew end up finding yourselves crash-landed on some foreign planet, a planet of which you're not particularly familiar with, the denizens of. You're journeying with your crew, probably looking for supplies, looking for a way to repair your communications, when suddenly you are attacked and held up by a group of bandits. The bandits consists of a dozen Vorcha, half with pistols, half with assault rifles, one massive berserking Krogan with a shotgun, one Asari who, as far as you can tell, appears to be unarmed, and at the corner of your eye you notice a tiny little red dot who has planted itself smack in the forehead of your captain. At this moment, how would you react and what would you do?
Well, clearly being outnumbered, charging in would be suicide at that point. Do they fully intend to kill, or are they robbers just looking for credits?
As far as you can tell, it looks like they desire to acquire your wealth.
To save face and to prevent the imminent cap in my captain's head, I would advise that we give them what they want, while also making sure I have an escape route in mind so I can get my captain and as many crewmen as I can to safety.
Okay.
And so many people are bound to leave tracks. There's no reason that we can't follow them and return the favor later.
I see. All right. So, assuming that they leave you peacefully after acquiring what they desire, your intention is to try to retrieve that which they have taken from you.
And to make sure that they don't continue doing what they're doing, if possible.
And by what means would you prevent that from happening, if you had a say?
I would prefer that they give up their banditry or figure out the root cause, because you don't wander around floundering through the wilderness just because you want to. So maybe if we could work out a mutual beneficial deal, that would be an option. But if all else fails, I mean, we can't get off this planet without some form of currency. So it's either us or them at that point.
One more hypothetical question for you, my dear. Let us say that you are an eyewitness to a crime. You see a man that has robbed a bank, but instead of keeping the money, he instead donates it to a poor orphanage that can now afford to feed, clothe, and care for its children. You know who committed the crime. If you go to the authorities with the information, there's a good chance that the money will be returned back to the bank, leaving a lot of the kids in need. What would you do?
Well, considering my, I suppose you would say, privileged position, I think what I would instead do is replace the money that the man stole with money of my own, and then give the money back to the bank. That way everybody wins, and no one's the wiser.
All right. My final question to you, my dear. Red, blue, or green?
Green.
Why did you choose green out of those colors? Just out of curiosity.
Blue is what I mostly see, at least back home. That is what I mostly saw. We are Asari after all, and
Of course.
red is the exact opposite of that color for us. So red always makes me a little unnerved whenever I see too much of it. So that, and it's if you were a student of the arts, red is a more angry color. I prefer green. Green reminds me of forestry and large stretches of plains, and it's quite a relaxing color for me.
All right. One final thing, Miss Rayne, if you will. I would like you to turn to the camera over there, and we are going to record this. Please make your plea to the crew and tell them why the crew should choose you to join them on their ship.
Why should you choose me? Well, that's more of a in-depth question than you realize. The real question is why shouldn't you choose me? I have influence. I know many people. I can be very, very persuasive and get just about any information out of someone. I not only have money, but I can also open doors to get more, or to retrieve secrets. And plus, anything that I can't talk about or hack behind, I always have a rather trusty aim, and biotics always help.